Let's get started with the President of the United States doing something that most presidents usually refrain from doing. Not only did Donald Trump today approve of the annexation of the Golan Heights, he's also essentially allowing the White House to be used for campaign purposes by Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's coming to the United States. Something usually presidents don't do. They don't like the White House being used as an election campaign backdrop, no matter who's running for office anywhere in the world. But the exception is being made for Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu. Bigger question, though, is this. Is Bibi Netanyahu the Trump administration's de facto Secretary of State? With this and a whole lot more regarding our Israeli policy, we bring in our RT correspondent, Dan Cohen, who usually has a very good handle on all things like this. What is it, Dan, that we're missing in the coverage of this story about the Golan Heights? Because I've known you and worked with you long enough to know that you usually know things that others don't know. What are we missing here?
Okay, well, we've heard about, the relationship between Kushner, Netanyahu, and Trump. But one of the main things that we just haven't heard anything about is the energy interest in the Golan Heights. There are massive amounts of oil. There are billions of barrels worth. And there is a company called Cheney Energy that's based in New Jersey. And the Israeli subsidiary has found these huge amounts of oil, which if Israel starts exporting it, could actually turn it into a net exporter. So it would be a huge boost for the Israeli economy.
The United States, in the form of Donald Trump and possibly Jared Kushner, would be very much interested in having access, I imagine, to that oil, right? Are there any other players, maybe from the past, who are involved in Cheney that we should know about?
It's not only the Trump administration. It's actually pretty much a bipartisan affair. You have Bush's Secretary of State and Halliburton executive, Dick Cheney, who is, of course, a major player in the war on Iraq. You have Obama's Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. You have the former CIA director, James Woolsey, who was also part of Trump's transition team. So a broad spectrum across this political spectrum, these figures.
This is a fascinating story. Now, see, this is the kind of stuff that I like that you do. You're not going to hear about the story anywhere else. The actual idea that the real reason that Trump might be doing this might be because, and by the way, I imagine Bibi's involved in whatever's going on there, right?
Sure.
I mean, usually prime ministers, if he, now, to be fair to Bibi Netanyahu, he's wanted American presidents to do this for decades.
Yes.
Regardless of the oil.
Yes, I mean he's wanted it for decades. Even though President Obama gave Israel the largest arms deal in history, in U.S. history, he would not recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, nor would any other administration since 1981 when Israel annexed the Golan Heights. One
final question, because we've got about a minute left. So we know that Jared has extreme ties to Bibi Netanyahu, as well as extremely tight ties with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. They're obviously buddies. They talk on the phone all the time, according to most reports. But there's one person we're not talking about who also, I believe, has a very strong influence on Donald Trump. Tell us who that is.
Yes, so you're talking about Sheldon Adelson,
Correct.
Who is a billionaire, an American billionaire who made his money in the casino business. He gave $100 million to the Republican Party for the 2018 midterm elections. He also gave $30 million to Donald Trump's campaign in 2016. He's a major backer of Benjamin Netanyahu. Also, he has a daily free newspaper. It's the most widely read newspaper in Israel. It's called Israel Today, and it's widely understood as a Netanyahu mouthpiece. And so he basically, there's the relationship.
Great reporting, Dan. Great reporting. Really, well done. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.